Good evening, everyone. How is everyone doing tonight? Wonderful. Quick show of hands, how many people did way too much Oktoberfesting last week? That's me, a few. You can admit to it, it's okay. Only me. Had a great time, but I'm so glad even after all that Oktoberfest and seasonal festive fun that you all were able to join us this evening for She Talks Tech. My name is Tabitha. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and External Relations here at the Accelerator Centre, and I am thrilled to welcome you to our very first She Talks Tech event. We are thrilled to have all of you joining us today. It's an honor to gather here both in person and also virtually. The aim of She Talks Tech is to shine a really bright spotlight on all the wonderful women in our tech ecosystem, and we're really excited to be celebrating entrepreneurship this evening. Before we dive into the heart of our programming, we'd like to begin with an acknowledgement that the land on which we gather, whether here or virtually, is on the traditional territory of Indigenous peoples. The Accelerator Centre is thankful for the significant contributions of our First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities, and offer this land acknowledgement as a small step and expression of our commitment to advancing truth and reconciliation. We welcome all those in attendance tonight to join us in recognizing the history, culture, and deep connection of Indigenous communities to this land, and express our gratitude for the opportunity to live and work here. She Talks Tech is more than just an event here for us at the Accelerator Centre. It's a critical part of our equity, diversity, and inclusion strategy. We're committed to creating safe and welcoming spaces for women to connect about their experiences working in STEM and entrepreneurship. The goal here is to inspire, create connections, and provide the support needed for entrepreneurs and women to thrive in these industries. At its core, this event is about celebrating the often unspoken successes and accomplishments of women in tech, and to recognize the challenges, triumphs, and perseverance that all of our speakers tonight have encountered in order to be entrepreneurs in this space. She Talks Tech is a platform to connect incredible women. Speaking of connections, we're really excited to be able to make this event accessible to not only those who can be in person, but also those who wish to participate in our events virtually. So we want to extend our sincere gratitude and appreciation for those of you attending virtually tonight. Your participation and engagement is just as important as those who are in the room. So we celebrate you in your virtual presence here this evening, and we welcome you after the close of the event. We're going to keep the Zoom room open. You're welcome to take yourselves off mute and network with the other virtual attendees. We'll leave that room open until we wrap up and clean up the space here in person as well. In order to keep the event running smoothly on the virtual side, we've muted all of our virtual participants. We ask that you stay muted so that those who are also participating virtually can have an interrupted experience. If you do have any thoughts, questions, comments, feel free to put them in the chat. We will have a Q&A period at the end, and we'll be able to read those questions out here in the audience. Finally, I'd like to thank a few people for helping us make this event possible. Events like this are never possible with just one person or one group of people. We rely really heavily on the great partnership of our community. So first, I'd like to thank the incredible Catalyst Commons team for both allowing us to use their amazing space, but also in helping us organize and promote the event. The AC and Catalyst have a long history going all the way back to when Curtis McBride was a founder at the AC. He's a wonderful alumni, and we've had a great and supportive partnership with Catalyst ever since. They've been really instrumental in bringing this to life. And secondly, I'd like to thank our incredible Accelerator Centre team. You'll see a number of us, many of us are wearing red shirts, some are not. So if you're with Team AC, stick your hand up and give yourself a round of applause. These events are really exciting and important to our team, and it's wonderful that all of you came out to help make it possible. And I want to give a special shout out to Megan. I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm so fortunate to be able to speak to you tonight. This is really Megan's vision and her baby, and thank you so much, Megan, for sharing your talents with us and bringing this to life. Without further ado, we'll get going on our panel. It's my pleasure to introduce you to another amazing partner, Jennifer Martin. Jennifer is a great partner of the Accelerator Centre, a service provider for our companies, and an ideal moderator for this evening's panel on entrepreneurship. So I will hand it over to you, Jennifer.
Well, thank you so much, Tabitha. So again, my name is Jennifer Martin. I am a SR and ED account executive at a company called Flow, and I talk to tech people. And we talk tech. And this evening, welcome to She Talks Tech. So let's get right into it, and let me introduce these very accomplished women that are with me on this panel this evening. We have Ruth Castleman of we have Ruth Castleman of Alert Labs, Toby Day Hamilton of Launch in Waterloo, and we have Mallory McEwen from BDC and Bridesmaid. Maybe we could just jump right in there, and you can introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about how you got started in tech, what inspired you. Take it away.
Sure. Everyone's looking at me, so I'll go first. The first thing I'm going to do is invite anybody who's in the back. There's like 8 chairs up here. We have no mandatory audience participation, so we won't make you do anything embarrassing other than walk up in front of all of us while we all watch you. So anyway. So yes, my name is Ruth Castleman. My first job in technology was at an internet service provider, and part of my job was to teach people that the E in email stood for electronic. So that may date me. I actually was trying to find a song that had the sound of a modem dialing up in it, which there is a pop song that has that. Maybe half the room is familiar with that noise. I don't know. Anyone happen to ever play Duke Nukem on dial-up? Oh yeah, woo! All right. See, this is how old I am. Okay, so I spent most of my early tech career at BlackBerry in their Network Operations Center, leading incident management. For anyone who's not familiar, the NOC is the eyes and ears of the service. And I was very lucky to be part of BlackBerry when they were basically a well-funded startup. We traveled the world. We worked with all of the mobile partners around the world, all the governments. And yes, if you can imagine, before that time, there were no smartphones. So again, aging myself just a little bit. So my time at BlackBerry came to an end after 7 great years. Asterisk and joke, I was there for 8 years. That's okay. Yeah. And after that time ended, it was time to, I had the option to decide what was next for me, and started a company called Alert Labs. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Alert Labs, we manufactured small IoT devices that were used for water conservation and water damage prevention in commercial buildings. And one of our major focuses was manufacturing locally in the Waterloo region using both the tech and manufacturing expertise of this area. So that was us. We went through all of the regular operational challenges. So I don't know if we have founders in the room, but if there's founders in the room, you know all the regular operational challenges of things you have to do on a shoestring budget when you are a startup, while also growing a nice team, making sure you're true to your social responsibility roots, and also profits. So all of that stuff. We were acquired in 2018 by a US Fortune 500 company called Watsco Inc. They really are focused on, they have a great distribution network for commercial buildings, so that was sort of our tie to them. I continued on as the Chief Operating Officer at Alert Labs until 2022, which is somehow almost 2 years ago at the beginning of the year. And then now what I do is I am the chair of the Accelerator Centre Board of Directors. I am the chair of the GTAN Angel Network, which is the #1 angel group in Canada. And I spend my time making sure that the tech ecosystem is going to be there and supportive and available for the next generation of tech entrepreneurs. So that's me.
Great. Wow.
Excellent. Is it on? Yes, it is. Hi, everybody. I'm Toby Day Hamilton. I'm one of the co-founders of Launch Waterloo. We are a social enterprise, so I'm a bit of an oddity on the entrepreneur side of things. And I remember the first time someone said I was an entrepreneur, I went, what? Really? I'm an entrepreneur? But I guess I am, because we did build this thing and we are running it as a startup. I got started in tech sort of as an accident. I did my undergrad degree after having a baby at 22, went back to school and did a undergrad in English and professional writing. and then went into advertising. Still no tech there yet. But then ended up writing in tech. And so all of our clients were in tech. I learned tech. I always had loved tech. And so after spending 10, 12 years at an advertising agency here in town, I went over to the University of Waterloo and worked in tech for 15 years. Whether it was at the school, starting the School of Stratford, which was digital media. Then I went to the Institute for Quantum Computing, which is really, really big, hard tech. And I remember at my job interview, they said to me, well, does the science scare you? And I went, yes. Who understands quantum? I don't. And I was talking to a professor who was a student of Stephen Hawking, so I wasn't intimidating at all. But I took all of that learning and all that experience and really the network that I created, and that's why we created Launch. Because we know that the next generation of kids really need to be inspired by technology. They have to understand technology. They have to not just be consumers of it. They need to be the creators of it as well. And so that's why we started Launch and what we're doing now.
Great. Wonderful. Mallory.
All right, and lastly, me. So I'm Mallory McEwen. I'm currently working for BDC, Business Development Bank of Canada, supporting the tech ecosystem with financing advisory. I think the original question was like how we ended up in tech. So before working for a Crown Corporation, I was an entrepreneur myself. So I kind of like going back a few years, longer than it feels like, but I had done what I think a lot of like middle class millennial kids did. I went to university for what I thought I was supposed to go to university for. I studied business. I focused in marketing. I thought I could be pretty good at it, get a pretty good job. I did that. I like checked all the boxes. I found my like first entry level marketing job to be super fluffy. Probably because it was an entry-level marketing job. But because of that, I said, oh my goodness, I can't do this for like 40 years. So I'm going to go back to school. I pursued an MBA where I focused in finance and accounting because I was like, okay, that stuff is not fluffy. So that's what I'm going to do. And it also like makes my parents happy. So I did that. Then I worked in finance for a couple of years, and that got boring really quickly for me as well, because kind of like every quarter looked the same. I was just putting the reporting together and drawing some insights out of it and prepping a presentation for someone else, and that was my job. So I got super bored there and thought, like, I can't go back for another degree now. So I kind of decided, like, okay, if I want to pave my own way and do something that's interesting, the best way to do that is to start a company. And I read some books, and I learned that starting a company, the best way to start a company is to solve a problem. So that's how I founded Bridesmaid, which was in 2014, 2015 was when I went full-time on it. And that's really what got me immersed in the KW tech ecosystem. Bridesmaid was really a quasi-tech company. Like, it wasn't really tech, but it kind of was. It let me be involved and show up at the tech events and do all that stuff. Ultimately, I stepped down from Bridesmaid at the end of 2019 and moved over to BDC. Bit eclectic. Now I'm at a Crown Corporation when I got like bored in my past careers, but the non-boring thing about my current role at BDC is that it lets me stay immersed in this tech ecosystem because I'm specifically like the tech banker for the region. So I'm happy to still be part of the ecosystem, although not currently an entrepreneur.
Oh, great. Some wonderful stories. Ruth, I do have to tell you, I remember selling internet kits out of a box. So I do remember the noises. Not that it was a competition, but I'm just saying. Anyways, when you ladies are getting into this tech entrepreneurship space, there are a lot of challenges that you need to overcome. It's sometimes a tough journey, a long, hard road. Can you share with us a story, maybe a situation that you found yourself in, and maybe that you're still in that scenario and how you pulled yourself out of it and what were the answers? Maybe start with Mallory.
Yeah, so I mean, I think for this one, it's not going to be like a story of one challenge or like one example, but I It's just gonna be like an overall theme. But I think for me, the biggest challenge that I've faced, and I still face it a little bit, though I'm getting better, has definitely been around imposter syndrome. So I think that's buzzword that we read all the time. A lot of women probably feel it. Men probably feel it too. But today, how I kind of feel it sometimes is even still, when I meet people, back when I was the founder of Bridesmaid, I pitched a lot. It was a consumer-facing business. It was really easy to understand. It was really easy to pitch, frankly. And a lot of people remember our pitch. And people will still come up to me and be like, oh, hey, you were the founder of Bridesmaid. That's so cool. And I instantly go into kind of shutdown mode and think did you know it ultimately failed? I stepped down, I hate that you remember me for that, because that was this black hole. It didn't work. Although I learned a lot during that time, and it actually was really successful in a lot of ways, it did not work at the end of the day. But even still, I feel that I have to pull myself out of being oh no, they remember me from that. But they're speaking really positively about how their picture of how it was. And I think even if I think about kind of why I ultimately stepped down from Bridesmaid, many pieces it took me to that point, but I think imposter syndrome was a big part of a lot of it. I was successful in raising some capital, but then when I had some investors who had been incredibly successful around me, I felt like I didn't have the right to make decisions anymore. I'm they're so much smarter than me. They've got more money than me. They've had success in the past. I'm just this young 20-something girl. So their ideas are definitely better than my ideas. And that was not good, but it was how I was kind of making decisions. I was that doesn't really sit right with me, but they've been so successful, so I'm just going to do it. And for them, it was just some off-the-cuff idea they had, and I just took it at face value and was okay, I guess that's how they want me to run this. But that alone was also kind of imposter syndrome, because I was just hey, I'm just this young girl. I don't really know what I'm doing, as opposed to stepping up and being no, you know what? I've been living and breathing this. I think that's a good idea, but from my experience or from the data in front of me or whatever it is, I think this would work better, and this is the direction I want to take it. So yeah, I kind of talked in a circle, but imposter syndrome, the last thing I would kind of say, so that's the overall challenge, but how I've kind of been overcoming it, because that was part of the question too. What I wish I'd done when I was an entrepreneur was stuff that at the time I thought was a little fluffy, was carving out what are my core values, what is my personal why, why am I running this business, and what is the vision behind this company, because that's the stuff that really creates the compass for your company. Your company will absolutely pivot as it learns, but if you carve that stuff out early, it lets you say okay, which directions does it make sense to pivot in? Since I hadn't done some of that homework, or at least I didn't really stay true to it, I let it kind of pivot away from that, and then I had this realization of oh my goodness, what I'm doing doesn't really align with my core values, but I'm leading it, and that's weird, and very uncomfortable and not good for your mental or physical health. So how do you overcome that? Do that fluffy work. It's not fluffy. Define your why, define your core values, be super, super intentional. Know that you're going to pivot, and the actual how you get there is going to change, but know kind of what your North Star is pretty early.
We're so hard on ourselves sometimes, right? And really what I heard from that was you had this awesome pitch. And I'm wow, I'd love to hear what it was that you did, but you're, anyways, go ahead.
My turn.
Yes.
Just to play on that is, the biggest challenge I find is allowing yourself to be brave. Being an entrepreneur is being brave. You've got to do stuff that you have no idea what you're doing. Every day, I have no idea what I'm doing. Some of the times I feel I'm making it up as I go, and it's is this the right way? Should I be doing it this way? And the biggest thing is be brave, trust yourself, but ask for help. I was at a talk last week, and someone said, ask for help. That's the biggest thing. And I'm yes, we have to be able to do that more, because it's okay to ask for help. When I was starting Launch, I had no idea what I'm doing. And I actually run two businesses, or I have two businesses. So I have a marketing agency on the side with a partner, and I just came in as a partner on that about a year ago, and I have no idea what I'm doing on that. I have no idea what I'm doing in Launch, but we're figuring it out. And I think that's my biggest challenge, and I talk to other entrepreneurs, and it's like we don't know what we don't know, and you have to just try and figure it out, be brave. And I think one of the biggest ones I've had to learn is the HR stuff. Like, people are hard, right? And being a leader is hard. Being vulnerable is hard. So every day I have to be put on a brave face when I'm freaking out, thinking, okay, we're not going to make payroll this month. But going in, being a brave face, saying, hey, team, we're doing great. Right? But I don't know that we are or not. We'll be okay, but you just don't know. So allowing yourself to be brave and overcoming those challenges is a really big thing in entrepreneurship, and I wasn't for a long time. That's why I came into entrepreneurship at 48. That was 5 years ago. And now I can be a bit more brave because I have a bit of a cushion at home. I have a great family that's supportive. I came from a family that didn't have any kind of wealth or anything like that. So beforehand, I wasn't brave enough to take on that risk. So it can happen at any time. You can be brave at any time. You can start early. You can start late. Whenever you feel like you can do it, and just trust yourself that you can.
That is some really good advice. Thank you so much.
It's interesting that we may have all sort of picked a similar thing, which my punchline is to advocate for yourself. So I had a situation, it's probably going on almost 20 years ago. Why do I join these panels and then talk about how old I am? I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So I worked for a big company. They had lots of HR policies. I was lucky to get promoted. But I had a number of peers around me, all of whom were men. I was in tech, of course, so all of whom were men. My boss was very kindly said to me, oh, you've got this promotion. Great. Of course, along with your promotion comes a raise. And I said to him, don't even tell me what it is. All I want to know is that I'm being paid on par with my colleagues. And he's like, oh, and left the room. So luckily, I had a very supportive boss who did recognize the importance of, equality. And so he came back with a 12% increase on what he was originally going to offer me. And 12% is a big increase. So anyway, the message absolutely is be brave, advocate for yourself. It's interesting. So going back, that was 20 years ago. Within the last couple of days, I had a situation where who some people consider to be a successful entrepreneur, in front of my face, in front of a group of people, said, oh, I don't invest in women entrepreneurs. They can't handle criticism. So I'm standing there and I'm trying to be a grown-up, but I couldn't let that go by, right? And when I was younger, I might have let that go by because, there was a lot of people in the room, but I could not let that go by. And I said, I'm sorry. Every professional woman has dealt with criticism their entire professional career. They can handle criticism. Anyway, he backpedaled very quickly. But it is shocking to me and actually super upsetting that, I have been dealing with this my whole career. There's lots of amazing, wonderful things. The fact that we are all here, the fact that you are all here, the fact that all of the men that are in this room are here, and I thank you all very much for being here. There's all many amazing things, but we run into those comments that you still think, like, how can somebody say that now?
Right, and that was just a few days ago.
It was just a few days ago.
So interestingly enough, I'd love to ask you then, what do you think about the future of technology and women in technology and their roles, and what can we do to help? Ruth, let's start with you.
I'm taking this. Oh my goodness, the future of technology. I have no idea where you'd even go to do that. I'm still doing a meal plan for this week for my kids, and it's Thursday. So,
well, the kids got to eat.
Well, they've eaten something. It just wasn't whatever the meal plan was supposed to be. There's probably leftover charcuterie. I'll take some home, which are super cute, by the way. So congratulations for setting that up. The thing that that always stands out to me for specifically women in tech is I think a lot of women really focus on the how and the why, and not always just the what. The feeds, the speeds, the bigger, faster, better. There's a lot of questions around how is this going to impact society? How is this going to make a difference? Why is this important to us as a company? And so I think as long as we continue to ask those questions, then the future of technology will be shaped by a diverse group of people. I do always like the quote, and not just because we share the same first name, but Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who says women need to be in every space where decisions are being made. And 100%, that's the way I've followed, the way I've built my life at this point, and hope that everybody else does as well. Future technology.
And you know what? When I look across this room, I love the diversity in this room, because that is the future of technology, right? We look at the rapid pace. I came from the Institute for Quantum Computing. Talk about rapid pace of technology. It's mind-blowing to see those technologies. In the 7 years that I was there, they were just talking that it might be a decade, 2 decades that we'll see these things. AI was kind of in the background still. Today, AI is huge. I'm sure we've all used ChatGPT and all those kinds of things. I talked to people in quantum technologies the other day, and they're talking about industries and startups and all these things in quantum tech. And that's going to change the world. But it's all of us who have to make sure that it's not biased. It's thinking about everyone, women, people of color, indigenous sectors, all of those things. We have to make sure everyone's included in that, because if we don't, it's not tech for good anymore. It's just tech for the sake of tech. And so when I look at why we created Launch, we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to participate in tech. And so kids have to understand that it's not just white men and women who are creating this technology. They can create it too. And by starting as young as 5 and 6 years old, they feel empowered to be able to say, yeah, I can create that tech. I can do that. Because particularly girls are checking out at 6 years old. They're saying, hey, I'm not good at math. I'm not good at science. I'm not going to do that. At 6? What do you know at 6? You know how to tie your shoes, right? But you can't be checking out already. And so we have to do more of that. But I'm also going to say something a little bit controversial. We can't forget about our boys. Our boys are being left behind. And so, yes, we've got to do lots for more women in tech. Absolutely 100%. Don't stop that, because I see it in tech all the time. But we can't leave the boys behind, because they need to be there too. All the kids, everybody has to be involved. So that's where I see the future of tech.
I agree. Good point. Good point.
And I would just say, I think a lot of us, at least growth-minded people, and it's probably only growth-minded people that choose to come to panels like these in the evening. I think a lot of growth-minded people are really only limited by this resource, which is how many hours are in a day. So we're really limited by our time. And if we think about the future of the tech, or the tech that's right in front of us, AI is freeing up a lot of time. That means that we as a society are just going to become more and more productive if we want to. But I do see that as exciting. There's a lot of things that are scary about AI and about where tech is going and things like that. And we need to avoid tech just for the sake of tech. But I do think we've got some people out there with so much potential that are constrained by how much time they have. And if we can free up some of their time doing more of the mundane things to do the more high impact things, then we will do even more as a society. And that's probably even more relevant if we think about why women are constrained. Sometimes it's because of how many hats we wear with a household and things like that. If we can be more efficient using some of the tools that tech is kind of creating for us, then maybe we can do even more than we thought was possible. So I think I'm a pretty glass half full person, but I think that's super promising and exciting.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm really excited after hearing you speak. What's coming next? Oh, I can hardly wait. Maybe, Toby, you could start with some of the, lessons, some other lessons that you've learned along the way and you can share with people.
Oh, there's so many.
Okay, well, give us a few. We've got about another few minutes here, but...
Lesson, choose your partners well. Not just in life.
In life and business.
In life and in business. And I think, Mallory, you said something about values, and that's really important. Choose your partners based on your values. We recently had a partner who I thought was aligned and was really great, and it was all good. That didn't come to fruition. You have to trust your gut sometimes. We're good at that as women, usually, trusting our gut. And that was a big lesson for me, because I thought, oh yeah, this is going to be great, this is going to work, we're going to do great things together, and it didn't. And it took a long time. Like, I got pretty down on myself that I chose this wrong company to work with, I did the wrong thing, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I had to lay off some staff, that was hard. And it's picking yourself back up from that and saying, okay, yep, made a mistake, but what did I learn from that? If you learn something from it, then that's a good thing. I learned, okay, I need to trust my gut more, need to do a bit more due diligence, don't just go after the money, because sometimes that's, just bright and shiny. And yeah, just, choose your partners well, trust yourself, and ask for help. If I had asked a few people, like, hey, what do you think about this partnership? What do you think about that? I might have got some insight. And I didn't do that due diligence. So next time, now I'll know.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about failure. You get to learn something at the end of the day, and it feels really good, right? Ruth, what do you have to add to that?
Well, it's interesting because it's closely aligned to what Mallory was talking about earlier, and I have it written on my paper here, so it's not even just made up. But my biggest advice is to realize that nobody knows everything, but everybody has an opinion.
Yep.
And especially when you're an entrepreneur, everybody wants to tell you what to do. And what you have to do as a business leader is to really decide what advice is good for you in your business, and what worked for somebody else might not work for you, and you have to be okay with that and have to find a way to say no to really smart people sometimes. And so that, trust yourself, filter out advice that doesn't apply to you. You know your business better than anybody else ever will, and so, trust yourself. I have one other quick piece of advice. I read an article recently on women and, again, advocating for themselves and self-promotion. And basically, the theory in this article was that a lot of girls, especially maybe type A girls who tend to be the ones who want to run businesses or be business leaders, they did really well in school. And so they always got A's in class. And when you get A's in class, you're the top of your class, and there's like a clear recognition to that. When it comes to the workplace, that's not how it works, right? You don't get an A necessarily. Sometimes it's the people who do the self-promotion, who talk about their A's, who talk about their accomplishments. They are the ones who get promotions, who move forward, get new opportunities. And so that the lesson there is self-promotion. And that is super hard to do. It's super hard even to sit up here and be like, look at all the cool things I did, right? Like, it's not easy to do, but I can tell you, and again, I'm sorry to all the wonderful men who are here tonight, because you're probably not these people, but if you stand around a group of professional men, sometimes all they do is talk about how great they are. Yep. And you sit around a group of professional women and they talk about how great their teams are, or all the things they've accomplished and their projects, which is wonderful. But there are times you have to self-advocate. So if you're trying to raise money, you're going to the bank to get a loan, you're talking to a potential new customer, like, you have to do self-promotion and just get good at it and get comfortable with it really fast.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. Mallory.
Yeah, I think I kind of hit home, and then these guys drove it further with the kind of like staying true to your values and all that stuff. But I would say, like, the other piece of advice would definitely be just, like, take care of your health. I think hustle culture has gotten really big, and I don't know where I stand on it, because, like, you do need to hustle to be successful. Like, there will be late nights. You will be trying to meet a deadline. There will be an opportunity in front of you and you're going to sprint towards it, or there will be a fire you need to fight and you're not going to close your laptop at 5 o'clock. That's just a reality. But you do also need to take care of your mental and your physical health. Frankly, it wasn't until a doctor, like a medical doctor, told me, like, hey, you got to get your cortisol under control, or like, you might not be able to have children. And I was like, wait, what? Like, that was my wake up call to, like, tone it down a notch and, think about my values and think about how I'm spending my time and do all of that stuff. So I'm not saying like close your laptop at 4:30 every day or anything like that, but I'm saying like take care of your health, physical and mental, be a little bit proactive because you're not going to be a successful entrepreneur if you grind 80 hours a week, but you only have like 50% of yourself to give. So yeah, just like really take care of yourself and grind when you have to and rest when you can.
That was, go ahead.
Yeah, Mallory, that's a great, I was actually having that conversation yesterday, that yes, you have to hustle, you have to grind, there's all these things, but you can't do it at the detriment of yourself, right? Because you're the one who's the face of the company, you're the one who's there, you're the one who has to be doing all these things, your team, if you have a team, looks to you, so you have to set that example as well. So it's finding that balance, which I'm not good at, I'm really not good at, but I'm trying. But I had the same thing when I was younger, working 60, 70 hours a week, traveling like crazy, and a doctor said to me, look, you're gonna have a breakdown. You need to stop, you need to relax for a little bit, because this is not good for your health. Don't get to that point, right? Let yourself take that rest, take that time, but find the balance. And I'm the worst to give you that advice, because I'm not taking it myself, but try.
Do a healthy hustle, right? I am so inspired by all of you up here and your stories. I'm wondering if you could share with us maybe a project that you're working on now that we could get also excited about and talk about and as a group.
Would one of you like to go first?
Sure, I'll go first, because I can do a shameless plug for our programs. So at Launch, we do programs for kids in STEAM, particularly STEAM, not just STEM. The A is really important for us because it's not just about science and technology, it's also about creativity, curiosity, and critical thinking. As I mentioned before, we want kids to be the curators and creators of technology, not just the consumers. So I think if they're doing that creativity, that critical thinking, they can actually do that. So if you have any kids in your life that want to get into our programs, we offer both free and paid programming. We've got some friends in the audience who have kids in the program, and so great to see you all here, and we'll see the kids next week. And so yeah, it's a great opportunity when you really want to see something interesting in the future of tech. Come and see these kids. Last night they were creating their own AIs. They're programming robots. They are incredible, amazing things that they can do, and it's awesome to see.
Awesome. That sounds fantastic. And really, thank you very much for putting the A in STEM. STEAM. Woot. Ruth. Mallory. Ruth, Mallory.
Okay, so like a project right now. So like ultimately my job is putting together debt, like non-dilutive funding for tech companies. But a lot of what is involved with that is coaching earlier stage companies through their forecast. And a question that I get often asked, and I can see why I'm getting asked it because I was an early stage entrepreneur at one point, is like, okay, what do you want to see in my forecast? So what am I proud of? It's not really a project, but like something that I do a lot right now. A big part of my role is like helping entrepreneurs put together their forecast for themselves, like a financial plan for themselves, because I remember being an entrepreneur and getting so much feedback on my forecast, like, oh, you should pump up the numbers for 2 years from now, or like, VCs won't take you seriously, and things like that. And I would be like, okay, and like adjust the formulas in Excel because that's what people want to see. But then I would be like, wait, how am I going to get this thing there? And like really overthink it, as I probably should, because your forecast is your plan. So now I take my job really seriously. Like, it's not just about getting the debt deal done for a company, but it's about helping that entrepreneur who doesn't usually have a CFO yet. And usually they're either technical or non-technical, but they're probably not a CFO if they're a visionary starting a company. It's helping them understand like why their forecast exists and what they should put in there for themselves, but not telling them like what people want to see. So that's what I'm proud of. Like, I would probably get more debt deals done if I said, okay, this is what my credit department wants to see, like pump it into your Excel model. But I'm proud of just kind of like giving back, because I was in their shoes and taking this feedback, to Ruth's point, from like everyone who had an opinion, and like adjusting my formulas and then not even knowing what my forecast, which is apparently my plan, said. Now I'm kind of, I just coach on like, here's the thesis of why you have a forecast, and I'm going to leave that with you. And you come back and let me know if you think data is a good idea, and we can talk through it.
Just to mention one thing, it's so I work with an angel group right now, which is folks who have available capital that they want to invest in early stage companies. And so, we've had lots of talks in our group, of course, about diversity, and we're specifically talking about women in tech tonight. So we do 3 pitches a month. That's how it works. And in the last 2 months, we've had 6 pitches completely organically, that's the right word, I hope. 5 out of the 6 of those have been women founders. And that was not planned. That was not trying to hit any checkbox on any list. They were just the best ones. And so I'm very proud of that for all of them.
As you should be. Thank you very much for sharing your stories. So now we're going to turn it over to you. It's your chance to ask the panel some questions. We have what's called a catch box over there, and it is this mic that you can toss to each other, back and forth for questions. So just put your hands out, up, and catch the catch box, and away you go.
I think I'm going to try out for the KW Titans, but I did catch it, so
for
there
you.
we go. And so, Toby, I know you know what you're doing because my son participated in one of your programs. And I have to do a plug for Toby because I called her. The thing was starting at, I don't know, like 5, and it was 4:59. And, of course, I'm trying to get Renee to log in, and we're having trouble logging in something. Oh, I can't call the big honcho. Who do I call? The big honcho. Who answers the phone? The big honcho. Toby answers the phone. So thank you. Thanks. And it's true, as a mother of 2 sons, we do have to look out for our boys. So yeah, thanks. So my question is, and I love how so many thoughts were going through my head in thinking about coming tonight, and it's like you were in my head and you wove my thoughts together because you touched on so many things. So if I could narrow it down to one question, it would be, I'd love your thoughts about managing your time, because as an entrepreneur, there are so many demands, and they can really be endless, and balancing, and there's things like Nancy and I, my friend, we had a chance to chat before this started, and I shared with her some of the things I'm doing, and I learned over time to manage my time better, like only taking meetings on certain days, and but just anything else in terms of those demands, because it can be endless. People can be asking you, and although you want to be open, you have to be realistic in terms of you need to maintain the most of your time for your clients and your prospective clients. So how can you balance all that and not say no to that meeting that might end up being your top client?
I'm only going to say that I have no particular answers to that question at all. I actually had to take time off after selling our company because over COVID, because I had told my wonderful, beautiful children that I love the most in the world to shut up and go away so many times that I had to take some time off to spend with them. What you're asking is really, really hard. It's priorities. I mean, for all of us, it's priorities. And, unfortunately, as an entrepreneur, I hate to say this out loud, and I know we're being recorded, but like sometimes your kids aren't the priority. And that is really it's really heartbreaking as a mother, but as a business leader, and you have 50 people who rely on you and their families rely on you, and it's hard to make those decisions sometimes. I don't know. Good luck.
Well, I'm going to mention my age again, Sarah. Thank you for that. So 53 years old, I'm still learning how to manage my time. So just this week, I discovered Kanban boards. Who knew what those are? Perfect. They are, for this week, are going to be my savior on how I'm going to manage my time. Because, there's so many priorities, there's so many choices. But I guess my point is, you're allowed to say no. And, you have to make priorities for yourself. You have to make priorities for your family, make decisions for your family. And saying no sometimes is okay. And it could even be yes, but not right now. That's one thing that I've learned is yes, but not right now. Can we do it a week from now? Can we do it 2 weeks from now? You just have to make those choices. And sometimes it's not easy. And sometimes you have to make the wrong choice, but hopefully you make more right choices than you don't.
Yeah, I would say, especially now that all of our meetings aren't on Zoom anymore, efficiency is more challenging to manage. So I'm not good at saying no. I'm getting better at saying, okay, sure, let's schedule that second week of November. And, if it's really pressing to get a meeting in this week, we'll get it in this week. But if there's no reason to put it this week, I don't want the reason to be just because I don't want to be rude suggesting November. And that used to really get in my way. And then I'd have this plan and this awesome task list in my Asana and all that, and it would just get railroaded by all these meetings that I have and the driving that I'm doing between them and stuff. Another thing that I do, this is outside of the meetings, but that's first, I think, is give yourself permission to schedule things more distant in the future, or say no to them, if you don't see the value for either party. But something that helps me with, I end up with a decent amount of tasks, maybe because I work more corporate now, but even as an entrepreneur, I would end up with a decent amount of tasks that were just really hard to get started. I try and tackle all those on Mondays. I don't know why it's Mondays. Everyone's going to be different. But I just set a timer for 7 minutes for every single one of them. 7 is a super random number. This is just something that's working for me right now. But usually I can actually get them entirely done in that 7 minutes. And I feel like I'm having fun racing against this timer to do it. But it doesn't feel so overwhelming to pick it up and be hey, I'm just going to give this 7 minutes. And then I'm going to schedule it out for the future if I don't get it done. But at least I get started as opposed to sitting on it. And I think, I don't know if this is as a woman or it's just me or what, but I feel really guilty about the stuff that I'm sitting on. So me giving 4 hours every Monday to this list of 7-minute stuff that I don't really want to do, that helps me a lot. And then I don't carry that guilt with me for the week. So maybe it'll be helpful for someone, but it's pretty weird.
I actually want to say M&Ms, but I don't mean the candy. I mean meditation and mornings. I have now rediscovered early mornings. And I get up at about 6:30 a.m., and I have that calm, and it's my time. My husband isn't talking to me. My son's not talking to me. I'm not on the computer. And I just get that time to be me. And that's really helping me with balance these days. Because you have to take care of yourself first. Otherwise, you're not good to anybody. Your employees, your team, your family. So M&Ms. Okay, throw that catch box. Okay. Yeah, and you can feel free to stand up, too. Great.
It's better that way. Okay, so as women in tech and women entrepreneurs, how did you deal with people who doubted your abilities as the technical abilities? And does it still happen? Or does it stop at some point?
Who wants to start that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's so frustrating. So I am not an engineer or a coder or those sorts of, so I don't have the, maybe.
And you didn't play one on TV?
And I did not play one on TV. But you do, as an entrepreneur, you get to know your business, right? And you know the technology of your business, you know your markets, it always happens. It still always happens that somebody thinks that they know more than you. It does tend to be one more often one gender than the other. It's a hard thing to deal with. I mean, you do have to emotionally recognize the fact that is about them. That is not about you. That is about them. But there are times, like this situation that happened to me recently, that you do have to call it out. And I do feel like after I turned 40, I was much less worried about calling stuff out. So, you may not, you're not there yet, because you are, as you progress in your career, there's less risk to saying things, right? They weren't going to fire me, or they weren't going to not promote me, or whatever the thing is. I don't know, it's hard. Any advice on how to have people recognize your credentials?
My biggest piece of advice, which I've done in my career, because I've been doubted for many, many years, is prove them wrong. And it's not easy, and you do have to call it out at times in the nicest way, because you can't be seen as a hard woman or whatever the term is, but just prove them wrong. And I think as all of us sitting in this room, we can do that all the time. Call it out in ways that you can, but then just show them that we can do anything, because we know we can.
I mean, I think those are really good answers. The only thing I can add is just try not to allow yourself to internalize it and let it shake your confidence. So consciously decide, am I going to let this hit me and just let it kind of like deflect off? Or am I going to respond in some way? But don't let it be like the third option, which is take it in and have it shake your confidence, which is like super hard. Like it's hard to protect your confidence, but I would say just protect that and say, it's a they problem, not a me problem.
That's some really good advice. Let's throw it on.
All right.
We're so polite.
This is
Jill.
like
nobody wanted to just throw that thing.
All right. My name's Erica Shelley. I'm the CEO and founder of Best for Bees. And this was a fantastic conversation. Great questions. And I'm just in awe of all of you. I've worked with Mallory, and she actually has helped me do the things she says she's doing, which has been fantastic. I was actually on a panel 2 days ago for Sustainable Development Goals number 9, which has nothing to do with this, but I brought up Sustainable Development Goal from the UN Nations. I don't know if people are familiar with that, but number 5, which is gender equality. And I was on a panel. There was 3 men and myself as entrepreneur. And one of the things we discussed is the availability of investment funding for female founders. So the numbers anywhere between 2 to 4% of all investment dollars go towards female companies. And so we've wrestled with this because we are a completely female-founded company about whether it even makes sense to travel that road to look for those investment dollars. So hearing that GTAN actually had these 5 out of 6 women, that's actually new. I know that's not like the norm. What would be your recommendation? So my question, I know there's a lot of background to that, and I was just at an event the other day with a bunch of investors that were all men, and I had my partner with me who is male, and when they would talk to us, he has nothing to do with the company, they all stared at him and they all talked to him about their companies. And sometimes they'd ask me about my company, and then I would start talking about my company, and then they would start talking to him again, right? And I am short, so I don't know if it was because I'm short or female, but I think it was because I was female. What I think the question then is for each of you, if you've had investors in your company, do you find that there's ways to get past being a female? Do we call them out and say, hey, I notice you're missing female diversity in your investment portfolio? Or do we just keep showing them how competent we are? Or is there's something else that we can do to look at investors? Or do we just keep bootstrapping and finding funding from awesome people like Mallory to help us move forward? What would be your recommendation to a company like myself?
I think there's a lot of answers to what you're asking. It is a problem. You're absolutely right. Just in GTAN's defense, GTAN does have almost half women founders that present. I mean, we do make an effort to do that. Just coincidentally, in the last couple of months, it just happened because they were the most awesome. I was going to say awesomest, but I think the answer is to just keep being fantastic at being a business, right? Like, regardless of anything else, business people do look at numbers, and if you have good numbers, they are much more likely to invest. Sometimes, sorry, there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different things that you're talking about. But, from the other side of things, we are actively looking at more women investors on the angel side of things. And so, all humans, regardless of gender, have preferences on the types of things that they like to invest in. And I do think that sometimes maybe women-led businesses, some of them are less interesting to someone who maybe is more traditionally like a, manufacture and distribute a thing, right? Like, it just might not be of interest to them. So you do have to find, angels or VCs that care about what you care about. And that's true regardless of what type of entrepreneur you are. There's lots of VCs, lots of people with money, but unless you are in the thesis that they care about, you'll never get invested on them anyway. So certainly look for people who do invest in women or the type of industry that you're in. And then, be an excellent business person. I think, I'm assuming this still happens to the next generations, but I know for my generation, I certainly felt a lot of pressure to never fail as a woman because, it was reflecting on all of the other potential women who would come behind me. And I didn't always succeed at that, but I tried to succeed at that, and I carry that weight. And I'm pretty sure most of my generation, the one before me and before, all felt the same way. So yeah, be awesome, and the numbers will certainly help, but make sure you're talking to the right people.
I would say I can segue off that a little bit. So when I was an entrepreneur, our business was very much a by women for women business. It was in the wedding industry. My first deck had a lot of pictures in it. It focused on the problem as decks are supposed to, and the solution and all those things. And it didn't attract much investment interest because it wasn't that interesting. It was an angel stage company, and it just wasn't that interesting to the men. It was probably more interesting to women, but it just didn't really speak their language. And at that point, it was several years ago, it was mostly men in the room that I was investing or pitching to. I shifted my pitch to just scrap a lot of those slides, be like, hey, this is the problem, this is the solution. We get that. That's pretty easy to understand. Let's talk about the unit economics. And then I spent the time that I had really talking about the numbers and getting them bought into why I thought there was something here, as opposed to just following, a 10-slide pitch deck format. And that worked for me in the sense that we did successfully raise, and we brought really good angels in. I will say though, it's very much a personal decision. You're kind of asking do we raise, do we not bother, because it's hard and they don't really listen and stuff. So I figured out how to make them listen and perk up and realize I'm smart and I'm onto something, and that was great. But then I truly found, and this is my own personal shortfalls or whatever it is, I did not perform as well when I felt like they were smarter than me, and because they'd had more success than I had. And I no longer was that really impressive person that I was before. I had, a cap table and people to report to and stuff. And now I was wearing the stress of man, I've got their money, I can't lose it. And I was making some of the wrong decisions for the wrong reasons because I changed once I raised, and I didn't get better. I lost my confidence. I'm not saying everyone will do that. I'm not saying it's a reason not to raise, but I learned that about myself. So if I start a company again, it probably will be a bootstrap company, because I just learned that, whoa, I'm not that really powerful person when I'm in a sort of a different room. I kind of shut down and do what people tell me to do. And I
haven't hit 40 yet.
Yeah, maybe I'll change it, and maybe, I'll come out and pitch and raise a bunch of money and prove you all wrong. But right now, since that was my experience and I didn't like who I kind of I didn't like that I lost my confidence, and it wasn't them beating me down. I had awesome, these were really good, well-meaning people. But I'll probably bootstrap my next one because of that experience. So if you're in those rooms and you're feeling I'm losing my confidence in those rooms, ask yourself, is it a good idea to put these people on my cap table? But it's all entirely personal.
Great. Thank you so much. So I am getting the signal that it's time to wrap up the question and answer for tonight. Ladies, thank you very much for sharing a little bit about your lives and your careers with us this evening. Audience, thank you very much for your great questions and participating with us. Yeah?
Get it out.
Okay, yes. And let me just, here.
We'll sneak one more in.
Okay, yeah, let's sneak it in then.
You have to catch the mic, though. If you don't catch it.
Yeah, throw it. There you go.
Okay. Hi. Good evening, ladies. It was nice listening all to your inspirational messages and stories. I have one question. What's your advice for return to work moms, the stress and the problems they face as immigrants? And do you have any advice for the women returnships? Any plans on the women returnship programs? I don't see much in Canada because I'm actually a mom returning to work. Actually, I'm looking for that. So when I see there are many opportunities in United States, but I don't see much in Canada. So I try to attend all the sessions and all the virtual sessions, but everywhere I see no, we are not having any openings in Canada currently. So do you have any plans on that women returnship programs?
So are you asking about female leadership programs or mom leadership programs?
No, women returnship, the ones who have the career gap and looking to come back to work.
So mom's coming back to work.
Yeah.
Actually, I think there are some in town. I can't think of any, but I bet you the folks at the Accelerator Centre can connect you with some because I have seen them in town, but I'm just not sure I can dig them out of my brain right now.
Okay, so the next part is networking. I can speak for all of us. We're going to be here. We're going to stick around for a little bit. Please come and chat with us, have a drink with us, ask us questions, and we'd like to learn a little bit more about you. Let me thank again Megan Gervais for putting together this awesome event because she talks tech. And the Accelerator Centre and Catalyst, please enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you so much.